The scope is, well, it's impressive. It really highlights how knowledge isn't just facts, right? It's layered,
Yeah.
interconnected.
Yeah.
It's about how things relate, how we use knowledge, even how culture kind of shapes what we think is knowledge.
Okay, so let's dive right in. One of the first things you mentioned, this idea, the way I think about anything is the way I think about everything.
Consilience, right.
Exactly, consilience. It suggests this sort of underlying unity in how we understand
Like
things.
patterns repeating across different fields. Think about, say, balance. It works in music composition, but also in, I don't know, architecture. Seeing those connections, that can spark real insight.
Right. And you also had this other image for knowledge,
Mm.
like a quilt, not a weave. I like that.
Ah, yeah, the quilt metaphor. Tell me more about that.
Well, it felt like different kinds of knowledge connect,
Mm.
but maybe not seamlessly. Like a quilt has distinct patches, right?
Mhm.
Each adds to the whole picture, the warmth, but they're still individual pieces stitched together. Some connections are obvious, others less so. It's not like this single, tightly woven fabric.
That's a really interesting way to put it. It respects the uniqueness of different domains while still seeing them as part of something bigger. Does that resonate with how you learn? Do things weave together tightly or feel more like patches added on?
Hmm. Sometimes one, sometimes the other, I suppose. Now, another foundational point you made was about language, meaning first comes from language.
Yeah, and extrapolates into culture. Yeah, language feels like the bedrock, doesn't it?
The words we have available, they don't just let us talk. They actually shape how we see things, how we categorize the world.
And those shared words, those frameworks, they ripple out. They become our shared cultural understanding.
Following from that, you talked about metaphor, calling it the glue that joins knowledge.
And scaffolding for learning, too. Metaphors are so powerful because they bridge the gap,
Yeah.
between abstract ideas and things we can actually grasp.
Like the electricity as water example.
Exactly. That familiar image helps you understand something invisible. It's like temporary support the scaffolding until you get it on your own.
Mm-hmm. And you even said vision is informed by language,
Which sounds a bit counterintuitive, maybe, but
but it makes sense. It's like having the word for a specific shade of blue suddenly makes you notice it more. It sharpens your perception.
you're primed to see it.
Okay, shifting gears a bit.
Yeah.
You had some really good points about the process of learning, contrasting learning in the doing,
If it is done voluntarily, that's key.
right? Voluntary versus rote learning, which you said was basically learning only until what was learned is forgotten.
Maybe a bit harsh, but there's truth there. Active, engaged learning versus just passively memorizing.
When you do something willingly, you're not just taking in info, you're constructing understanding through
Right.
trial and error.
It sticks so much better than just drilling facts without context, which leads to your other phrase, knowledge is in the doing and finishing.
Yeah, that one really resonated. Yeah, it's about applying it, right? Taking it from an idea to something real,
Mhm.
seeing it through.
It's not just knowing the steps, it's navigating the messy bits, adapting.
Mm-hmm. And for learning how to do things, you highlighted emulation. Emulation is the most effective learning device.
Yeah, like the Duke Ellington example, watching those piano rolls to learn. It just shows the power of observation, of imitation.
Yeah.
Watching someone skilled, especially a master, you absorb so much, not just techniques, but the feel of it.
Right? And you connected this to recorded media, creating a kind of modern oral tradition.
Yeah, it's how we pass down expertise now, isn't it? Through recordings, videos.
Which brings us smack into technology. You said it allows us to explore the depths of abstraction to divine more knowledge.
You pointed out the other side, the internet, making people suspicious of their intentions, maybe breeding distrust.
Yeah, that's a worry.
And you raised a really thought-provoking concern about algorithms shaping future learning.
That line, it's not just what you like, it's what you learn to like. That's a bit unsettling.
How so?
Well, the idea that algorithms just feed you more of what you already seem to like.
Yeah.
It potentially cuts off those chances for, discovering something completely new, something unexpected, creates filter bubbles.
Intellectual filter bubbles. It's subtle, but you see it, right? Recommendations for music, books, they're helpful, but can they also narrow our horizons over time? Keep us from broadening our tastes?
Definitely feels like a risk. You also made a great point about skill versus deeper understanding. Knowing how to use art implements won't make a successful artist.
Such a crucial distinction. Technical skill is important, obviously, but it's not the whole story. Like your music example, knowing where to put your fingers versus knowing the chord changes, the harmony, that's a different level.
Right, the underlying structure.
Yeah.
And you also observed that skill only goes so far. And sometimes skill doesn't always have to be visible.
Yeah, like minimalism. It looks simple, but there's often a lot of hidden complexity and deliberate choice behind it. True expertise isn't always flashy. It's about knowing when and how to apply the skill.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's talk context. Social, cultural context. You noted how outside elements, cultural connotation, and the context and era really shape the power of music.
Oh, absolutely. It's never just the notes themselves, is it? It's the history, the time it was made, our own memories tied to it. All that stuff contributes.
It gives it weight, meaning. And you describe music beautifully as the adhesive that bonds experience and memory.
And that it activates all types of knowledge.
Yeah, music has this incredible knack for tapping into deep memories, emotions, connecting different parts of our understanding, sometimes in ways we don't even consciously realize. It triggers all sorts of knowledge.
Which kind of leads us into some potential problems you identified. Pitfalls, paradoxes,
Yeah.
like denying accumulated knowledge just because.
Yeah, you see that around, don't you? Just dismissing established facts or expertise without really engaging with it.
Sometimes feels like it's about fitting in or just distrust.
Could be. You also mentioned the tendency to go for material comforts rather than knowledge.
Makes you think about priorities, doesn't it?
Yeah.
As a society, are we valuing stuff over understanding?
It's a valid question. Knowing isn't always feeling.
And neither is feeling in and of itself knowing.
Right. You can intellectually understand something without feeling it emotionally, and strong feelings don't automatically mean you have accurate knowledge. They're different systems.
Very different. You also warned about hiding knowledge behind beliefs.
Mm-hmm. Our beliefs give us structure, sure, but they can also act like blinkers, stopping us from seeing or seeking out info that challenges them.
Yeah, confirmation bias territory.
Mm-hmm.
And the worry that institutionalized learning might suppress ideas. How might that happen?
Well, maybe through rigid curriculums or an environment where challenging the status quo isn't really encouraged. Fear of rocking the boat. It
Yeah.
could potentially stifle really new or unconventional thinking.
Makes sense. You also touched on skills fading, atrophy of skills if we don't use them.
A constant battle. Use it or lose it.
And the huge danger now of getting info from sources that care more about clicks than accuracy.
The internet age has amplified that like crazy. We all need to be super critical consumers of information.
For sure. And you wrapped up the pitfalls section with postmodernism potentially allowing actions without knowing anything about what we're doing. Can you unpack that a bit?
Well, it's the idea that if you question all the big stories, all the universal truths, maybe sometimes that leads to acting without a deep grasp of the principles or history involved. More focus on immediate impact, less on the underlying why or how.
Interesting. Okay. Shifting again more constructively.
Yeah.
You contrasted asking why with asking why not.
Yeah, that felt important. Why seems driven by genuine curiosity, wanting to understand the mechanics, the reasons.
Whereas why not can sometimes be a bit passive, like just going along with things without really digging deeper or thinking critically.
Exactly. It can bypass the need for foundational understanding sometimes.
Mhm.
Active engagement versus just acceptance.
Then you brought in this really cool concept, knowing when everything has occurred, comparing it to the overview effect. Can you explain that effect quickly?
Sure. The overview effect is what some astronauts report feeling when they see Earth from space. This sudden, profound sense of awe, interconnectedness, an intuitive grasp of the planet as one whole system. So the analogy is that sometimes in learning, you might get a similar feeling where all the pieces just click into place. You suddenly see the whole picture with total clarity.
A cognitive overview. I like that. And finally, you really stress that learning is ongoing. Learning is an evolution.
Mm-hmm.
And highlighting that satisfying moment when you go from, oh, where did I see that before, to actually knowing where.
Yes. That little click of recognition becoming solid, retrievable knowledge, it's proof the process is working.
Such a rewarding feeling.
It just shows learning isn't, a destination you arrive at. It's a constant journey, always refining, always deepening.
So it's so clear that knowledge, learning, they're incredibly complex, tangled up with everything we do.
Yeah, definitely.
We've talked about how ideas connect, the power of language, how we learn best, technology's ups and downs, skill versus understanding, the role of culture.
And all those tricky pitfalls and paradoxes, too. Your reflections really give us a lot to chew on about how we gain knowledge, use it, maybe even lose it.
They really highlight the need for, active engagement, critical thinking, staying curious, basically.
Couldn't agree more. especially now with information coming at us from all sides.
Okay, so on that note, here's a final thought for you to take away, building on all this. Given how powerful emulation is for learning and how digital media keeps changing, how do you think future generations will actually develop their core skills and their understanding of the world when, everything seems instantly available? Something to ponder.